The Constitution does not matter. It is but virtue signaling from these ghouls. They're now arresting the people they claim to venerate, they claim to support. Imagine this. Maybe you don't have to imagine it, because maybe you are a veteran. Maybe you are a combat veteran of the United States military who served in a faraway land, ostensibly serving and supporting and protecting and preserving the Constitution of the United States. Part of that Constitution, of course, the First Amendment, protecting, not granting. It's a natural right. Conservatives bang on about this all the time. The Constitution does not grant your rights. It just protects your natural, God-given rights, right? Some of those rights: freedom of speech, freedom of assembly, freedom to redress your grievances of your government, freedom to protest. Political speech is paramount in what is protected by the Constitution of the United States. The same Constitution that I don't have with me now because it's at my desk in my studio at home, but the conservatives, they pull out of their pocket and they shake it around, and usually it's tattered because look how much I read this. This is like my ancient family Bible that I treat with such reverence. And now, in municipalities like Spokane, Washington, a small city, 200,000 people maybe, they're arresting combat veterans for protesting ICE. Get a load of this headline from The Guardian. Alarm after FBI arrests U.S. Army veteran for conspiracy over protest against ICE. Legal experts say charges against Afghanistan war veteran Bajun Mavalwalla, I apologize if I butchered that name, they mark an escalation in the Trump administration's crackdown on First Amendment rights. The same Constitution to which Donald Trump has raised his right hand and swore an oath of service to. The law does not matter. The Constitution does not matter. It is but virtue signaling from these ghouls. And they're now arresting the people they claim to venerate, they claim to support. All of these people, the troops, the troops, the troops. Thanks for your service. Thank you for your service. You're a hero. Unless you step out of line and have an opinion contrary to the dear leader. Then you're in trouble. Even if you served in combat and survived IED attacks and combat itself. Also, this is a family with a deep-rooted history of military service. The photo that you just saw on the front page of The Guardian is this veteran and his father in a combat zone in Afghanistan. They both served. And now they're being attacked. They're being targeted. And a trumped up charge. Before I read a little bit from this, let me tell you this. What I would like you to do, everybody within the sound of my stupid voice, go look up jury nullification. If you get called to a federal grand jury, it is absolutely your right, your option, some would say your duty, to not indict, to not offer the government a weaponized position to harm someone's life for only exercising their free speech, for only doing their moral obligation to stand in the way of tyranny in these times. The arrest of a U.S. Army veteran who protested against the Trump administration's immigration crackdown has raised alarms among legal experts and fellow veterans familiar with his service in Afghanistan. This veteran, I don't want to keep messing up his name, Bajun Mavalwalla, a former Army sergeant who survived a roadside bomb blast on a special operations mission in Afghanistan, was charged in July with conspiracy to impede or injure officers after joining a demonstration against federal immigration and customs enforcement, that's ICE, in Spokane, Washington. Legal experts say the case marks an escalation in the administration's attacks on the First Amendment rights of this person. Afghanistan war veterans who know him say the case against Mavalwalla appears unjust. Quote, here's a guy who held a top secret clearance and was privy to some of the most sensitive information we have, who served in a combat zone, said Kenneth Koop, a retired colonel who trained the Afghan military and police during Mavalwalla's deployment. Quote, to see him treated like this really sticks in my craw. Not just you, Colonel. the rest of us who served as well. And I would say that the majority of Americans who have any loyalty to this country, to the rule of law, to decency, to a non-intimidating government, they also believe that. The June 11th protest against ICE that led to Mavalwalla's arrest was confrontational, leaving a government's van windshield smashed and tires slashed. But before you start saying, oh, well, of course he should have been arrested. But the Guardian continues, Mavalwalla was not among the more than 24 people arrested at the scene. More than a month passed before the FBI arrived at his door on 15 July. And he wasn't arrested for damaging government equipment. He wasn't arrested for vandalism. He wasn't arrested for violence. He was arrested for conspiracy, which, as far as I understand it, having served on a federal grand jury for a year and a half, carries with it about a decade in prison. This is what they want to do. Silence, and if they can't silence, they want to intimidate. The 35-year-old who used his GI Bill to earn a degree in sustainable communities from Sonoma State University was set to move into a 3,000 square foot house that day, which he had bought with his girlfriend, a nurse and fellow Afghanistan war veteran, with the help of a loan backed by the Department of Veteran Affairs. Mavalwalla's father, a retired U.S. Army intelligence officer with 3 Bronze Stars earned during tours in Iraq and Afghanistan, brought his truck for the occasion. He planned to move his son into a dream home in the bucolic southern section of Spokane that was large enough to accommodate their blended family. But at 6 a.m., the FBI knocked on Mavalwalla's door as they arrested him. Cell phone video shot by Mavalwalla's father and shows the veteran, tall, fit, and wire-rimmed glasses, tight ponytail and trim goatee, smiling in apparent disbelief, his hands shackled behind his back. Quote, "This is not how I planned to spend my moving day," Mavalwalla says, as agents search his pockets and force him into a black pickup truck. Quote, "I'm a military veteran. I'm an American citizen." At 3 p.m., Mavalwalla, who receives disability compensation for post-traumatic stress disorder connected to his service in Afghanistan, appeared in federal court along with 8 other people indicted in connection with a protest against an ICE transport that occurred a month earlier. And then I'm going to finish with this. While the indictment alleges other protesters struck federal officers and let air out of the tires of an ICE transport, Mavalwalla was not charged with obstruction or assault. Instead, he was charged, as I've said, with conspiracy to impede or injure officers. Mavalwalla, who has no criminal record, pleaded not guilty. He has no criminal record. His record does contain a history and a pattern of dedication, of loyalty, of service to the country as a whole. Now look, you don't have to agree with the objectives of Iraq and Afghanistan and how we conducted those conflicts. You don't have to. But when you volunteer to serve your country in the military, you don't have a choice. You go, or you suffer legal consequences, or an other than honorable or a dishonorable discharge, which carries with it a lifetime of following you on your record. This is somebody who ostensibly served to protect our freedoms and is now having his usurped by Donald Trump, the law and order president. And as I've said in previous videos and in this one, if this can happen in Spokane, Washington, it can happen where you live. Spokane is not a giant metropolitan area. It is a small, as they described the neighborhood in South Spokane where he was going to move, bucolic, pastoral. This is where we are in America. This is fascism. This is not the America that was talked about by Ronald Reagan about the shining city on the hill. This is, where are your papers? Show me your papers. Prove your loyalty to the dictator leader, Donald Trump. It is time. It is time that if you have not attended a protest, if you have not talked to your friends and neighbors and acquaintances about their activism, their organizing, it's time. If you are physically capable, If you are in a space where you can, you need to. If not, find another way to get involved, because we are losing our country at the most rapid clip since the Civil War, and maybe more imminently than then. I would love to have a conversation with you in the comments about this. Let's talk about it. You can also call the voicemail line, 714-576-4054. And of course, as always, you can email me, daily@dollemore.com. I love and appreciate you very much. I know that things are tight. I know that things are tough. Take care of yourself. Practice self-care to ensure that you have the energy and the wherewithal to continue the fight. Don't burn yourself out so much that you can't, because we need everybody on board, everybody to show up. I'll see you next time. Be genuine. Take care of one another.